Hi. Hope you're having a great day. So let's get right into it. No, we don't need an intro. You know what this is. Some sports show. I'm John. I just gave an intro. I'm a fucking hypocrite. Oh, I'm so sorry. But nonetheless, so as I'm sure some of you are aware if you watch the NFL draft is coming up. And one of the top players coming out of this year's class is Jalen Carter from the University of Georgia. Now, Todd McShay, who was a draft analyst for ESPN, said I think like a month or two ago, or at some point in the last couple months, that Jalen Carter has had some character issues. Okay? Happens every year. There's always a player with some character issues. In my opinion, a lot of the time it's kind of bullshit, but nonetheless. Says here, let me get to the article from, this is from SI.com. It says, now Carter's draft class has arrived, but now without criticisms or doubts already being cast. ESPN analyst Todd McShay warned the football world on an ESPN broadcast that Carter had some character issues and would be a hot-button name as the draft process continues until April. He said that being that he may be the number 2 overall pick, blah, blah, blah. So then, what was it? Trey Scott, who is Georgia's defensive line coach. He was interviewed in an expansive profile on Carter by The Athletic's Bruce Feldman. He mentioned asking walk-on nose tackle Weston Wallace his thoughts on Carter. Wallace, a walk-on defensive lineman, doesn't get to eat with the team during team meals. A rule about scholarship and non-scholarship amenities put in place by the NCAA. So this season, Jalen Carter picked up his meals. Jalen heard about that. I'm the only walk-on in the defensive line room, and he goes, I'm not going to let that happen. So he used his scholarship money to pay for him to get lunch every single day. You honestly don't know the guy if you think that. You can ask anybody on the team, whether it's the O-line that he bullies every day out there. Everybody thinks he's an all-around great guy. And I think he'll be great for any team that picks him. So, I've been, as I'm sure, like a lot of you, been watching, whether it's football, basketball, you've been watching sports for a long time. Every year, there's always a couple of guys who, because maybe they've rubbed certain people the wrong way or they make kind of certain decisions that people don't like, that they now have character issues. Now, yes, there have been plenty of guys over the years that do legitimately have legit, quote-unquote, character issues because, they're getting caught up with the law or they're getting, they're just not, they don't care or whatever it is. But in my experience, more often than not, those guys who have character issues, they're not real issues. It's just like, they just are like, oh, well, the NCAA doesn't want to do this, so I'm going to do this. It's like, just like, for example, Jalen Carter is helping his teammate just eat food every day. So, yeah, it's like, okay, well, I have to kind of work on my own food. I got to get food on myself because, I can't get food through the university because I'm not on scholarship. So he's like, I'll just pay for it. Just easier. I'm not going to let my guy here just sit alone while all of us are being able to eat and he has to go deal with it himself. Like, that's bullshit. And also, I just feel like, I don't know, that character issue shit is just like, unless the guy is like not a good person, he makes like constant bad decisions, whether it's like, oh, he's out here doing drugs or he's committing crimes or insert anything else that's just like truly negative to just himself and the team, then yes. But if he's just like, oh, he's just going back and forth with the coaching because he may not agree with certain things, like he's not a character issue, this guy's just fucking outspoken. I feel like they overblow the whole character issue thing a lot more than they should. But it is what it is at this point. Jalen Carter, this isn't going to do anything to affect his draft stock. He's still going to be a top 5 pick, possibly even the number 1 overall pick if the Bears even keep their pick, because they could trade it. I will say there's a lot of talk about the possibility of the Bears trading Justin Fields and either keeping the number 1 overall pick to get a quarterback or trading that as well along with Justin Fields to then possibly get a Bryce Young or a C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, etc., which I don't see the point in Justin Fields being traded right now because the Bears, let's be honest, not a great team. Offensive line, also not very good. But even the fact that Justin Fields still did pretty decently this past season with what he was able to have with the Bears. I mean, come on. Let me pull up his stats real quick just so I can kind of somewhat justify my point here. should have had this up, but sometimes I like to work on the fly. Here we go. So I believe last year he had 1,000 rushing yards, which I don't think anyone expected. So this past year they went 3-12, so obviously not very good. He had 2,200 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. So obviously it's not great, but also on top of the 1,000 rushing yards, that's a decent season. It's not going to win you the Super Bowl, obviously, but still, it's still good. So, yeah, he had 1,143 rushing yards on 8 touchdowns. Okay, so let's relax. And then 2021, he had 1,800 yards. Let me see. Yeah, so it wasn't great. All right, it wasn't great, but he's like just starting to come into his zone, in my opinion. And if it seems like the Bears are trying to take, obviously, a more serious route and try to build this team into something good, don't give up on Justin Fields right away. Obviously, I understand if like things were working great for a little bit and just like there were better options, then sure. But they haven't really given Justin Fields a lot to work with. Like the wide receivers last year were not very good. The offensive line wasn't very good. There's just not a lot of good things that came with the Bears last year. Hence why they have the number 1 overall pick this year. So I'd say give him a better offensive line, maybe give him some couple of weapons, and then see how it goes. If the team is better and he's still not performing, then I totally get it. Get rid of him. But give him a fucking shot to do something decent without him having to run as much as he did last year. Well, we'll see what happens. Now, an update to Peyton Hillis, and for those who aren't aware, I believe it was like a month or two ago, Peyton Hillis, former Browns running back and Madden cover athlete, pretty much got in the hospital because he was trying to save his kids from drowning. So yesterday he posted a message online saying, "I just wanted to come on here and thank everyone for all the prayers and all the love you have given me. It's really made all the difference. I also want to thank my brave sister, mother, sister-in-law, my kids, and my girlfriend who has saved my life in more ways than one." Love that. Thank you to the amazing staff at the hospital, Baptist Hospital in Pensacola. Y'all were truly amazing I can't talk. Y'all were truly amazing and took such great care of me. You made all the difference on my recovery, and I haven't taken any interviews on this because I like to keep my family out of the public eye because it was a very traumatic experience for us. Totally understandable. But I did want to come on here and show my appreciation for everyone who has helped save my life and for all of your prayers and love and support. I left the hospital with no worries and concerns and should make a 100% recovery. I'm a very lucky and blessed man. Yahweh has really blessed me, and I'm very thankful. Yahweh, what is that? Oh, it's Jewish. A form of the Hebrew name of God used in the Bible. Oh, he's Jewish. Shout out to my Jews. That sounds offensive. I'm so sorry. Shout out to the Jewish community. Did not know he was Jewish. Love that. But hey, things are looking great for him and his family. It was just a rough string for like athletes there for a minute. And I'm happy things are okay, because like the last thing you need is this guy to die trying to save his kids, or his kids possibly die from drowning. Either way, don't want that. Things are good now. We love that. Peyton, congratulations. Happy things are going to go okay. So, there's that. Now, it's also been announced that players can now be franchise tagged in the NFL. And obviously some of the top names that are eligible to be franchise tagged, like Lamar Jackson. Baltimore, just fucking hurry up and get this over with so I can stop having people talk about it every goddamn day of my miserable life. Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley. Now, there was a report that it's possible that Daniel Jones may want up to $45 million a year. That's fucking ridiculous. Absolutely no. I don't. And again, I know it's just like a rumor. That's a report, so it's not him directly saying, "I want $45 million or I'm not coming back." But there's no chance that if you're the Giants GM, you give Daniel Jones anything close to $45 million. He has not been productive enough, in my opinion, from what I've seen, to get $45 million. Now, his first season with Brian Daboll went super well. They made the playoffs. They beat the Vikings, which no one expected, in my opinion. I mean, he's not, like, the whole time he's been with the Giants, everyone was been questioning if he's a franchise quarterback. Was he worth that top 10 pick that he got when he was drafted? And for a lot of years, the answer was no. Like this year, he had 3,200 passing yards. He had 15 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. And, like, it's not, I mean, season before, he had 2,400 yards on 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, playing 11 games. 2020, 2,900 yards, 11 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 14 games. And then his rookie season, 3,000 yards, 24 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, playing 13 of those games. But this is his first year with a winning record, because before that they went 4-7, 5-9, and 3-9 with him as the quarterback. Don't give Daniel Jones that kind of money. Give that money to fucking Saquon. Now, yes, he has had injury issues, and they have declined his fifth-year option, and it seems like he may get the franchise tag, but if they don't bring Saquon back, their offense is fucked. Like, it legitimately is. I just don't see them being successful realistically, offensively, without Saquon. There's just no shot. Especially with how Saquon's been the last couple of years. I mean, don't lose Saquon. And also, and again, Ravens fan here, blah, blah, blah. I've said it a million times. I'll probably say it a million more, so I'm sorry. But what's with, like, people linking Saquon to Baltimore if he does leave? Are we just acting like J.K. Dobbins doesn't exist anymore? Like, I don't understand that. I really don't. Because all of a sudden, it's like, even like mock drafts. Oh, Bijan Robinson's going to Baltimore. Why? We have running backs. Running backs on a need for Baltimore right now. It's just not. So let's stop acting like it is. Fuck. But on to other things, though, I want to get to real quick. So as I'm sure some of you may have heard about, the Docu-Series we see on Netflix with F1 with Drive to Survive, and now with the PGA Tour / Live Golf with Full Swing, which I'll get into in a little bit. I watched the full thing, binged it, loved it, but again, we'll get into that. It was announced actually today, per Netflix and the NFL, this docu-series called Quarterback, following the 2022 NFL season through the eyes of Kirk Cousins, Marcus Mariota, and MVP and Super Bowl champion Patrick Mahomes. It says unprecedented access, and for the first time ever, players are mic'd up for every game, and it premieres this summer. This is definitely going to be interesting, because obviously with, like I mentioned, the success of Drive to Survive and now Full Swing on Netflix, this makes the most sense. Because the closest we've had to this is Hard Knocks on HBO, but that focuses more of just like the stuff with like training camp and all that, like the preseason, and then it kind of stops. And I know recently they've been doing more of the during the season, but again, its focuses more on like the actual just like football itself, and you get a little bit of like the family stuff every so often. But usually also they tend to follow guys who are like still trying to make the team, or like those like fun stories of guys who don't get a lot of love. And then occasionally you may see a couple stars here and there. But this is just like Patrick Mahomes is the number one quarterback in the league. Kirk Cousins, who had a really good year last year with the Vikings. And then Marcus Mariota, who had an up and down year, and then eventually did get benched for Desmond Ridder. But I'm curious to see how it's going to go. So, I mean, they definitely have a chance to put out like a really good docuseries. And I believe Omaha Productions is behind it, which is Peyton Manning's production company. And they've been crushing it with content since they've been a thing. So, good for them. Hopefully that all works out in the end. Sorry, things are happening on my phone, and I just want to check it real fast. I'm sorry, this is rude. I'm a piece of shit. All right, I shouldn't be checking my phone during a recording, because who do I think I am? Now, especially when it comes to the NFL, things are slowly picking up a little bit, because obviously we have the stuff with the franchise tag, and I believe the deadline is March 7th for that. I just pray to fucking Christ that Lamar gets franchise tag, exclusive franchise tag. Because I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'm fucking tired of hearing about it. That's all I hear. But I want to get back to Full Swing. So for those who don't know, like I said, I've mentioned it 6 times already. Full Swing is a docu-series based on this past season of the PGA Tour, and it also featured some live golf athletes, I guess you can call them. Honestly, I've never given a shit about golf. Never have. I always found it boring. When I was younger, I had one of my first jobs I had. My boss had a TV there, and he had golf on so goddamn much. I was just like, you're not even like paying attention. You're not listening to this shit. Like, you're on the phone doing business shit. Why the fuck do you want this on? I would change it. And he's like, what are you doing? I was listening to that. You're on the phone. Do your job. I'm sitting here waiting for customers. Let me at least get just let me do something else. But as I got older and just more time kind of just being whiter, I guess, is the best way to describe it. I kind of get golf a little bit. I get it. This was a better way to get me interested in golf a little bit. Cuz I don't know if I'm ready to commit myself to watching a full golf tournament or match or whatever the fuck you call it. But getting to know some of the guys a part of the PGA Tour and Live Golf, that's a lot more interesting than just them just hard selling me, oh, you should watch this, you should watch that, blah, 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 blah. But them kind of getting some more personal showings of different golfers. They didn't show Tiger Woods a lot, which I get. He was probably one of the first person they asked, and he was probably I don't care, I want to keep my shit separate. But they had guys like Rory McIlroy, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas. There's a few other guys I can't remember their names right now. But hey, I low-key fuck with golf. Golf is still an expensive sport, and to me, how I've always seen it, it's always been a rich guy sport, because it seems like a lot of these guys come from, families that have had links to the PGA Tour already, where oh, my grandfather golfed, or my dad golfed, or my uncle golfed, or they grew up with money, so their parents were at these country clubs or had access to golf courses. So they had the ability to practice golf. Now, I know not a lot of golfers are like that, but it seems like that's just the ones I've seen happen. And it's you don't really see regular people I don't want to know in my life give a fuck about golf. But honestly, I kind of low-key fuck with golf. They kind of got me in a little bit. And I'm not going to say it here, but we'll see how it may have a future attached with golf. Well, when the time comes and it's summer, we'll talk about it. But that's all I'm going to say for now, and don't ask questions about it, because I'm not fucking answering it. But I may also start watching Drive to Survive, because I believe Season 5 comes out soon. I'm not a big I'm not a big racing fan anymore. I used to be a NASCAR guy growing up, because my dad grew up watching it. We had some family friends who were involved in the NASCAR world. So it was cool growing up. Plus, when I was in high school, I went to a NASCAR race. Apparently, NASCAR fans like showing their titties, like the women showing their titties. It was with permission, always with permission. And big fan of that. So to the women who did that when I was in high school, thank you for showing me your titties. Haven't been to a NASCAR race since, and I don't think I can. I think I topped my level of happiness with that. I don't think I can beat that, but I can drink now, and I can do drugs. So maybe I'll go back to a NASCAR race one day. But it's also kind of weirdly more political with the Republican shit, and they're all rednecks and all that other shit. But NASCAR still has a place in my heart. See, if they did that for NASCAR, that's the shit I'd watch. Give me a docu-series on NASCAR. Or don't give me the Joey Logano's or the Bushes or the big names. I want motherfuckers who are working their way up. Like some guys who are kind of still new to I don't even know what they call the Cup Series nowadays. It's every year they have a different sponsor. But new guys in the Cup Series are guys working there, or even women or whoever. I don't want to put a gender or anything. People who are in the racing world working their way up to get to NASCAR, that would be sick. That's what I want. Make that happen, NASCAR. But that's probably not going to happen because NASCAR still likes to live in the past a lot. Which, hey, that's fine. Do your thing, I guess. I mean, fucking go off, Queen. But I feel like there's an opportunity for NASCAR, and I feel like hopefully they take it because I know they want to grow the sport, and you kind of have to get away from that like Southern lifestyle shit and like, which they are. I know they banned the Confederate flag from people bringing it to races, which I'm sure people still try to do that. They're like, it's not racist, man. It's a lifestyle. It's like, just shut your mouth. Like, just stop complaining. Take away my freedom of speech. They're not. That's not. It's a privately owned company. They could kind of do whatever they want to their product. But the last thing I want to get into and that I've seen that's kind of been interesting is this whole situation with Darius Miles and Brandon Miller. So for those who don't know, it says here, this is per The Guardian, University of Alabama basketball star Brandon Miller brought a teammate the gun that was used in a failed January shooting near campus. Miller, who is a freshman at the University of Alabama, brought Darius Miles' gun to him on the night of their shooting after Miles texted him and asked him to do so, per the Tuscaloosa police investigator Brandon Culpepper. The allegation of Miller's involvement on the night of the 15th January shooting came during a preliminary hearing for Miles and Michael Davis, who faced capital murder charges for the death of 23-year-old Jamea Harris. Miles is accused of providing his gun to Davis, who fired the weapon and killed Harris. Alabama coach Nate Oates told reporters on Tuesday the team has been aware that that Miller allegedly brought Miles the gun, but the team's leading scorer is not in any type of trouble, and he started every game since the shooting. People say that he was just like in the wrong spot at the wrong time, clarifying that what he termed his unfortunate remarks after receiving criticism on social media, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, I mean, this is fucked. It says the shooting occurred on the Strip, a business district of bars and restaurants that caters to students at a Tuscaloosa campus. Harris was sitting in the passenger seat of a car when she was struck by a bullet. Investigators wrote in a court document that Miles, who had been a junior reserve forward on the team, admitted to providing the gun used in the fatal shooting, but Davis fired the weapon. Culpepper said on Tuesday that Miles told Davis where his gun was in Miller's car. Prosecutors and defense lawyers presented diverging accounts of the shooting. Chief Deputy District Attorney Paula Whitley told the judge that there was ample evidence to proceed with the case against Miles and Davis. A defense lawyer suggested during Tuesday's hearing that Miles was reacting defensively when he told Davis where the gun was located. The reason that the gun was provided to Michael Davis was for protection. Mary Turner argued the defense lawyers asked for Davis and Miles to be released on bond. Judge Joanne Janik did not immediately issue a decision on the bond request. After the court session, Harris's mother told reporters that she is frustrated by the focus on basketball when the shooting claimed the life of her daughter. She has a 5-year-old son that is still waiting for his mother to come home. Declare Heard told reporters, "I want justice for my grandson." Yeah, that's a fucked situation. That's. I mean, until Morris come out, I'm not gonna say and be like, well, he shouldn't have done that, and it's all bullshit. Like, I'm not a part of the situation at all. But like, you don't shoot people, like allegedly. Like, here's what I'll say, and I know it's gonna get political because it's about gun control and all this, but people are gonna have guns regardless. However you feel about guns and gun control and everything, it's like, at the end of the day, if someone's legally able to and they pass all the necessary requirements to get a gun and they want to, people are gonna get a gun. They're gonna do it at the end of the day. But like, don't murder people with it though. Don't do that. That's not something you should do. I feel like that's obvious, but I figured I just put that out there. Hopefully justice comes to Harris's family, because I can imagine this shit is tough, especially because you tend to see a lot of college athletes, pro athletes commit crimes, and they tend to get away with it. I'm not saying that every person who's committed a crime who's been a part of college or professional sports has been not actually, hasn't done actually the crime and it's all been bullshit. But you see a lot of times a lot of these players who commit really fucked up shit get away with it because they have the access to get away with this, and with the help of good lawyers, are they able to work the justice system around them to make it seem like I didn't do it, and then they did, and it's like you just got away with the shit. But hopefully, the truth shall come out. Hopefully, justice comes to the family involved, because it's fucking terrible. That's kind of on that. I mean, I don't. That's a fucked situation for everyone involved. Personally, if someone asked me to, I don't know. I'm just a regular white guy, so if my friend was like, "Get me a gun," I'd be like, "No, I'm not getting involved with that. You're not touched." No. But maybe I'm not a good friend, so I just don't. I don't know. But those are my thoughts on that. So right now, I don't got anything else going on with that. With things to really. I kind of hit all the things I wanted to talk about today. I kind of went through them. I feel like I went through the Jalen Carter thing a little too fast. But even going back to the draft, the one thing I hate that fucking ESPN does or the NFL Network does, and I've mentioned this before, is where they'll announce a guy getting drafted and they'll kind of talk about his background, his history with football and all that. But then they like to bring up the worst shit possible. It's not just it's so-and-so's parent, worked so hard to get to give them the best chance to succeed in the sport and sacrifice a lot. It's always someone's parents was murdered, their kid had 8 million different cancers, and it's what the or just their entire family was murdered or died in a fire or whatever, and it's what the fuck? Can we stop with that, please? We don't need to go in depth about the worst shit ever with these people's lives. Well, their mother was a crack addict and their dad was a gun runner, and this kid had every sibling murdered and kidnapped, and their grandmother robbed the Pentagon, and it's what the stop bringing up these guys worst things. We don't need them to bring up their worst memories on supposedly one of the best days of their life. You had a dream. I'm fucking dumb. Their dream achieved. They worked and sacrificed so much of their life to get to this point to where they can say they are now in the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, or any professional sport, whatever. They worked hard to get to that point. They earned the right to be where they are. And just for some fucking analysts to be well, Brian McDingle, former running back out of UCLA, when he was 12 years old, his mother was brutally murdered in a bad drug deal, and his father spent 25 years in jail for murdering 25 people on a run from the police, while his oldest brother was a gang leader and one of the most heinous criminals on all the East Coast. It's we don't need to do that. We don't need to talk about that. I don't need to hear about that. I'm just a regular fuck guy. It doesn't make me feel anything good. It doesn't make me feel good. It's wow, this guy's life's been really fucking hard. Jesus. I'm sorry, if someone brought up the worst shit that happened to me in my life on some one of the best days ever, because I did this great thing, I'd be what the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you bringing this up? They weren't hey, I can't imagine. How do you do research on that? Are you just hitting up the people in their lives hey, this is so-and-so from the NFL Network. Can you just give us some examples on just Jordan McFerguson's worst moment of his life? What really made him cry? Do you think that? Do you think that made him sad and just shit that's really traumatic in his life, that it could be that we can use on this? It'll just like give me like a few examples. That would be great. Let me write this down real quick. It's like don't do that. You're not Nardwuar. You don't need to figure out like shit that like no one's ever talked about besides like him and his like 2 family members that have been through this. We don't need that. Stop that right fucking now. Please and thank you. Gosh. But hey, if you made it to the NFL, you made it to pro sports, congratulations. No matter what sport it is, no matter how long you've been trying to get there, I wish you the best of luck in your future. It's kind of like that right now. I mean, not a lot's been happening lately. It's a lot of just like rumors and things like that. Well, this is where he can go, and this and that. Well, it's like until some concrete is happening, ain't nothing much to talk about right now. And I don't follow basketball, so I can't really report on anything like that. Because I don't want to be a big dumb dipshit being like, well, Kyrie Irving and the Dallas Mavericks. It's like, no, in my opinion, I can give you like base info, but you're never gonna see me go in depth unless I have someone on here go in depth with me, which come on the podcast. So I want to thank you if you made it this far in the podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Follow all my social medias below. I post actively on TikTok, and I'm posting more actively on YouTube Shorts as well, so look out for those. Podcast is available anywhere podcasts are available, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I'm working on getting in more platforms, so even more places can listen to this. Obviously, here on the YouTubes. Obviously, if you're listening to audio, wherever you're listening to this, thank you. Rate the podcast 5 stars. That'd be appreciative. Share it. Share it to your loved ones. Share it to me. Not me. The me that's listening to this. You're me. You. You get it. You get what I'm saying. So thank you. And I'll see you all next Wednesday.